Yo, what up, guys? This is a little different. We're not on the clock. Well, we are, but
We're
we're
always
like
on the clock.
we're always on the clock. But this is something different. If you have found us here, this is the 6 month madness podcast feed. You may be seeing this on the On the Clock basketball YouTube channel, but this is kind of something that is idea that we've had in the works for a bit, and we're kind of running with it. This is our weekly college basketball show, guys. And me and Julian are happy to be here every week to kind of recap and talk about everything that's going on in college basketball. Um, yeah, how are you doing, Julian?
Dude, I'm so excited. I don't think I don't think the people realize me and Caleb have been doing some sort of draft prep for like 6 months in
Yeah.
preparation for this moment. We've been going through all these goddamn prospects, going looking at all these different teams. We watched probably between the two of us as many, I think probably 15-ish games last night.
Yeah, I
It's
mean,
hard to watch.
we're bouncing around for sure.
We were
I,
bouncing
I had
all
my
over the
I had my
place.
heart I had my heart in certain places, but we can't talk about that. And no, I think at the end of the day, it's college basketball season and madness is here. And we're here to present to you guys. So, this is the first episode. I'm going to explain how things go as kind of we're going, and then we'll start to get into a rhythm over the next couple weeks. So, we're going to start every episode kind of recapping all the teams in the top 25 and what they did this week. For this week, it's pretty easy. We've only had one slate of games so far. We're recording this on Tuesday evening. That's when we'll record most of these, and it'll be posted on Wednesday morning. So, kind of going through the top 25 very quickly. North Carolina beat UNC Wilmington. Gonzaga beat North Florida. Houston beat Northern Colorado. Kentucky beat Howard. Baylor and Kansas both apparently number five according to ESPN respectively beat Mississippi Valley State and Omaha. Duke beat Jacksonville. UCLA beat Sacramento State. Creighton beat St. Thomas, Minnesota. Shout out Andrew Road. Arkansas beat North Dakota State. Tennessee beat Tennessee Tech in a battle of Tennessee. Texas beat UTEP. Indiana beat Morehead State. Arkansas Pine Bluff almost pulls out the upset. Top 25 upset in night one, but TCU gets it done with a late three from Mike Miles. We'll talk about that game a little bit later. Auburn beats George Mason. Villanova topples LaSalle. Arizona beats Nichols. Virginia beats North Carolina Central. San Diego State beats Cal State Fullerton. Alabama beats Longwood. Oregon beats Florida A&M. Michigan beats Purdue Fort Wayne. Illinois beats Eastern Illinois. And Dayton beats Lindenwood. And finally, Texas Tech beats Northwestern State. Every week, it won't be that filled. Like we won't need to go through that much stuff. We'll probably keep that more brief, but I think it's good to kind of know what all is going on here. All the teams that were in action. Pretty much every team in the top 25 was in action, if I'm not mistaken. I think off the top of my head, I don't think there was a team that didn't play last night.
They all
And that,
did. And I think
they all
the
did, and
one
that's a
thing,
way to kick off the season for sure.
and I think the other thing to include about that, it'll be easier to recap the top 25 when they start playing each other.
Yep.
Um, because last night, although it was great to see college basketball back, it was kind of the warm-up game. I'll put that warm-up game in quotation marks, for a lot of these teams. Everyone's playing at home. Everyone's playing against a team that they expect to beat. And a lot of them made pretty quick work of it. There were probably four-ish watchable games yesterday, including that TCU game. Um, but it was good to see college basketball back. So, I mean, the top 25 teams look good. Should we get into some of the guys that, stood out?
Yeah, so our first segment that we're kind of do every week is our top mid-major performers. So here's where we'll kind of bring up some teams that are outside of the Power Five or Power Six, whatever you want to call it. And we're going to talk about them. If there's any notable players performing well, or even the teams themselves are get on a hot streak. And I think we're going to start off um, with the only upset that we really could consider for the night, where Florida State misses Baba Miller to start the year. Obviously, he's suspended for 16 games to start the year. And they get upset and surprised by Stetson. Um, you know, I don't really know what to say here. I mean, I don't know. Do you want to say anything? It's kind of surprising Leonard Hamilton's club didn't get the dub there, even with guys like Matt Cleveland on the roster. I know Baba Miller's good, but is he that good?
I mean, look, Florida State was not a great team last year, and I think that Baba Miller was expected to come in and be the star. Obviously, you talk about Matt Cleveland. He was expected to take a leap for sure, but I this is a bit concerning for Florida State, honestly, because Baba doesn't come back until January. If Baba is that guy and they need Baba to win games, they're gonna kind of have to hang on by a thread without him to start the season, and that's a bit concerning for me. I do have faith in Leonard Hamilton, but this is not a great look, I gotta say.
No, not at all. I don't know. From my perspective, Matt Cleveland played all right. I mean, I didn't watch a ton of this game. I mostly watched the recap, and read the box score. So I'll probably we'll take a look at Florida State over the next couple weeks. I don't think I'll be watching Florida State much until they get Bob on Miller, and I'm sure most of the draft community can agree with me and relate with that. Um, so moving on, Arkansas Pine Bluff almost upsets number 14 TCU at home. This is our only top 25 almost upset here. What did you think of this game, Julian?
This was an interesting one. I mean, I gotta give TCU credit because they were trailing by 14 at the half and they came back. And I also want to give Arkansas Pine Bluff credit because there were moments where it looked like TCU was going to get a 4 point lead and start to pull away. And Arkansas Pine Bluff kept hitting big shot after big shot after big shot to keep it close. Now, granted, they didn't hit the shot at the buzzer to pull off the upset. And Mike Miles had a massive, massive three. He just,
Yeah, the defense
trails
was
the
caught
play.
lacking, as I wrote.
Yeah,
They were
caught
caught lacking.
lacking.
I mean,
Mike Miles walks up to the 3 point line unguarded for some reason, which if you're playing TCU, you have to know where Mike Miles is.
yeah, I mean, you
And
definitely
he
have
hit
to
the
know where
shot.
Mike Miles is. Yep, absolutely. I think the story of the night was Arkansas Pine Bluff played some pretty good defense. They were pushing the pace quite a bit and was forcing some TCU turnovers early on. Both the teams weren't taking care of the ball very well, but the problem was is TCU couldn't shoot it either. Only shooting 19% from three. You did mention that Mike Miles three, but I think it's also only fair that we'd give Arkansas Pine Bluff a little credit here. They shot
Yeah.
44% from three, drilling 13 of those suckers. And Sean Doss Jr. himself was 4 for 5 from three, ended up with 25, 6 rebounds, 1 assist, 2 steals, and 1 block. A good showing from Sean Doss Jr. there.
Yeah, I think that's the key to that game. Is in the first half, Pine Bluff came out white hot from three. And yes, the percentage looked good at the end of the game, but they did cool off in the second half. And TCU was able to use their, general superior talent to Arkansas Pine Bluff. No offense to Arkansas Pine Bluff, and was kind of able to dominate inside more and get better looks. And when the threes weren't falling for Pine Bluff, it made it a lot harder for them in this game. And I think that that's what happened is they got a little bit too three ball happy because of the success that they had in the first half. And it came back to bite them a bit. But it does, TCU is vulnerable to a team that can shoot.
Yeah,
That's what it tells me.
yeah,
And
I think that it does speak that a little bit. I think over the next couple of weeks we're gonna have to look and see, where TCU's offense is going to come from if it's not coming from Mike Miles. Moving on to the next game, we have UNC Asheville actually pulled up an upset over UCF. And the story of the night has to be Drew Pember. I mean, he pulled up, dropped 40 on UCF. They were, and then he had nine, and the splits were incredible. 12 for 21 and 4 for 8 from three. I mean, what was the story of this game, do you think?
you can't
I said,
ask for much more than that. I mean, Drew Pember had the best performance of the night.
yeah.
And
Wait,
again,
wait,
UCF,
where is he a transfer from again? Isn't he?
I actually don't know.
Uh,
Drew Pember is a relative
Go ahead.
unknown
Go
for
ahead.
me. I gotta do my Drew Pember
I know.
research.
I know. He was a transfer though.
Um, he is a transfer from Tennessee.
Yeah, I was about to say Tennessee. Did you see that? I was about to be
Tennessee
a 10.
transfer.
Okay. Okay. I
Tennessee could have
know.
used him last night, man. Tennessee could have
I
used
mean,
him.
yeah, Tennessee didn't look
But
great, but we'll save the Julian Phillips talk for another time to have somebody else maybe on the pod at another time. But I think that's really the
yeah,
only story over there in Tennessee.
but I think yeah, I mean, you I think this more speaks to how good UNC Asheville is rather than how bad UCF is. I think a Pember-led UNC Asheville team can win the Big South and maybe piss off a 1 or 2 seed if they are seeded that low in the NCAA tournament. They've done
Um,
it in the past.
I just want a GG Jackson alert quick here in the middle of this podcast. As we're recording, currently South Carolina is up on South Carolina State 29-24. It is a close one here in the first half, but notably, my boy and everybody's favorite player, GG Gregory Jackson, has
By
7 points,
proximity.
3 rebounds, 1 steal, and is 1 for 1 from the 3-point line.
All right.
He's a shooter, ladies and
Shout
gentlemen.
out,
He's
shout out
arrived.
GG Jackson. Of course,
GG
we've
Jackson
got the
has
GG
arrived.
Jackson. Can we get Zach Edey interruptions too?
Yeah, of course. I mean, we'll make it work. We'll make it work. Now we're gonna move on to UAB. Jelly Walker. A name that's familiar with me, and I tried to make sure it was familiar with Julian. But apparently he did not know, and he did not hear. That young boy dropped 38 on Alabama State in 27 minutes. 27 minutes, bro.
We
Like
love
that's
ourselves
peak.
in it. I mean, that UAB team is good. Between him and Eric
Him and
Gaines, that
Eric
UAB
Gaines,
team is
yeah,
very good.
yeah. There's
They
something.
are going to put up points with those two
Listen to these
guys.
splits,
And
Julian.
honestly,
Listen to these splits. 11 for
I see the
19 and
splits.
5 for 9 from 3.
5 for 9
I had to
from
tell the
three.
people. I did tell the people.
Look, if he can shoot and take the pressure off of Eric Gaines, they're a tournament team.
They are. They look good. I mean,
Flat out. Flat
it
out.
shows me that they also are confident in their ability to perform long term because they pulled Eric Gaines 23 minutes of the game and they didn't let Jelly Walker go for like 60 or something. I mean,
Yeah,
because he could have.
they could have
Like he could have kept
easily
going.
played in 35 minutes. Yeah.
Yeah. I think that was just the story of that game. Nothing else there. Alabama State sucks, so I mean, it's not really anything really speaking that much on them. And we'll just kind of see how. I want everybody to kind of keep a pulse on that Jelly Walker. I want everybody to be in on it. All right. I'm not a selfish guy with the takes. I'm collaborative.
Great basketball team. Allegedly.
I'm collaborative.
Allegedly collaborative.
Okay. Stocks on the rise. Now this is a separate section, so if you're watching YouTube, they'll change the little chapter on the bottom because we do that. We're professional like that. Stocks
Yeah,
on
we
the
are.
rise. Trevon Brazil. I think that we have to start here. Against North Dakota State, put up 21 and 12 coming off the bench. I don't think that'll be his role for the whole year on Arkansas. I think that he eventually will make his way into the starting lineup, as will Jordan Walsh. I think it was just a matter of having some of their lineups be balanced, get some interchanging parts. And we can spend a little bit of time here. I think the biggest thing that was notable about his performance, we know that he's a phenomenal athlete, but the shooting has really come around. He was 3 for 6 from three.
I don't even think that's the most notable thing about his performance.
Okay,
I
let's
think it
hear it.
was notable, but I think what's even more notable, obviously the three is good, but the fact that teams have to respect him, and he's doing a good job of utilizing pump fakes and
Yeah,
getting to the hole
he was
now.
attacking some
He
closeouts.
was
I love it. I love
attacking
it.
closeouts. Trevon Brazil was looking like a multi-level scorer last night. That's
Yeah,
what stood out to me. And I think that if he can do that, which again,
you're getting
not
me
expecting it
excited.
every night from Trevon Brazil. That's a lot to ask from him. But look, if he's dropping a 3 or 2 a game and attacking 2 to 3 closeouts a game, which he
I ain't
can
gonna
very
hate it.
easily do,
I
he's a
ain't gonna
first
hate
round pick.
it.
He's a
He's a
first
first
round
round
pick.
pick in my eyes already. So on top of like the shooting, I mean, last year, I mean, I don't know if people got this deep into the weeds on Trevon Brazil over the offseason, but I did for sure at one point. I mean, I saw the athleticism. I was like, this guy's got to be able to do anything else. I mean, the shot blocking obviously was a prominent shot blocker already at Missouri, but I mean, the jumper for me has shown dramatic improvement. He had a hitch in his jumper last year. It just seemed like he wasn't as confident as release. It didn't seem as a natural of a motion as it should have. He looked very natural. I mean,
It
a
it
catch and
looks
shoot
really
three
good.
from the corner.
It looks
I mean,
good. And he
at the
took a couple he
NBA
took it off the
level,
dribble three.
yeah, he did. I mean, he was impressive. I was really impressed with Trevon Brazil. Um, Arkansas as a whole, I mean, Anthony Black and Jordan Walsh were the only other two freshmen that suited up last night. Both of them kind of had lackluster performances. I'm not going to judge it too much. I think that both those
No,
guys really need a guy who can space the floor out with them, and I think that is going to be Nick Smith. And when they are all at some point, like I said in the preseason, their lineup is going to be at the end of the year: Nick Smith, Anthony Black, Jordan Walsh, Trevon Brazile, Makai Mitchell. And if it's not that, that's not the team that's going to win the national championship. And I'm sorry.
I
Jordan
don't
Walsh and
know.
Anthony Black have to come around. And Ricky Council played great, but I mean, he looks like a
Council is
pure
really
six.
good.
He looks like a pure six man to me. And
I can see that.
maybe Jordan Walsh is their six man, and they have him come off the pine and provide that stuff. But I don't know. I'd rather have Ricky Council be my initiator off the bench than Jordan Walsh, to be honest. I'd rather
Yeah,
have
I agree with
Jordan Walsh running the breaks with Trevon Brazile and Anthony
that.
Black. I mean,
Oh,
that team is incredible. All right.
yeah, they look good. They look good.
Yeah, they're going to be good. Moving on to another team that looks good, Alabama. And another prospect, again, much similar to Gigi Jackson, is very high on my board and not so high on Julian's. Brandon Miller got his first
I gotta
action
see
last
more.
night. Um,
I just have to see him play.
he had
That was
14
it.
and 13. Provided I was really honestly his offense is cool. I think it's great to see him in a NCAA Division I game and see the handle actually translate and see the athleticism. He's faster than everybody. Like, I mean, genuinely, this guy's an elite athlete. But the biggest thing for me is the defense was awesome. I thought his defense, his motor, everything
Really
looked
good
good.
defender.
This kid looks like a winner. And I think that above all, he's going to be one of these guys that the box score may not pop out to you every night, and it may not show these crazy numbers, but in a Scotty Barnes fashion, he's going to contribute in any way he can to winning. And I think he's a better shooter than a guy like Scotty Barnes is. I think that the shooting will come around. He didn't really display much of it yesterday, but I'm excited for the season with Brandon Miller. I mean, it was great to see him in action, and he didn't disappoint.
I think Bam is a really balanced team as well. They have Burnett, they have Clowney, they have Bediako. They have a lot of different guys who are pretty, Bediako is a great interior force. They have a lot of guys who can tack closeouts and drive the lane. Um, and so I don't think Brandon Miller is going to need to be a superstar this year. I think if
Mhm.
he just is on the floor, plays really good defense, gets a few looks a game, nights like tonight or last night, 14 points per 13 boards. If that's 8 points, 13 boards, you'd say, you know what? Yeah, he didn't do a ton of scoring, but he's doing other things.
Yeah,
And I
and
think that's the thing to look at with Brandon Miller.
I think they're gonna be able to count on him for 15 and 8 a game. I mean, this year, I think that's.
It's like that.
I mean, and you'll take that, especially when the guy's got this type of upside and athleticism. Um, Moving on, another guy. Speaking of upside and athleticism, Maxwell Lewis for Pepperdine lit up Rice for 29 on 12 of 15 and 5 of 7 from
Ooh.
three.
Whew. Look, everyone's been talking about Max Lewis being a breakout player. Everyone loves his athleticism. I don't think people expected him to be this efficient. Again, it's one
No, I
game,
mean, granted,
but
it's against Rice, and Houston Millett had a
but
great game himself, but
well,
Maxwell
that's
Lewis, it looks like him if he him. I mean, you want to
that.
talk about Jelly Walker's night? I mean, Maxwell Lewis said, "All right, buddy, I'll take that and I'll raise you." Um, I mean, the efficiency. When you have a guy who literally can dunk over everybody and then he's shooting like this from three, it's hard to argue with. And then also at the same time, he impacted the game in every single way. He also contributed 6 rebounds, 5 assists, and 2 blocks. Like, what is next for Max Lewis? Because I want to find out. What do you think's next? Do you think this is him and Houston Millett are about to lead this Pepperdine team to a tournament run, possibly? Could we see them in March?
Yes, I mean, here's the thing: is the recipe for success. Remember, this Pepperdine team was not very good last year. Lewis got injured, and Millette showed flashes, but the rest of the team was just so porous defensively. It was hard to really say, "Oh yeah, like Houston Millette, great two-way player," anything like that. But I think that if Pepperdine is going to do anything this year, and I think that they can, because Both of these guys, especially Max Lewis, are very talented players. It's going to be on the back of these two guys. What we saw last night from Pepperdine is exactly what they want for the entire season.
Hmm.
Maxwell Lewis putting up crazy shooting numbers, Houston Millette taking a bunch of shots, and just letting those two guys run the show because they're the most talented players on that team. They're two of the most talented players in the conference outside of a few guys at Gonzaga.
Yeah,
So I think they could very easily be the team that challenges Gonzaga this year. I could
yeah.
see it.
I mean, I definitely regret not taking them in our skins draft after last night, but it's all right. Um,
Yeah, I was thinking about it.
Speaking of a team that nobody took in the skins draft and nobody would have thought of taking them, besides possibly me, because it is my current university and where I reside, UW Wisconsin, baby. We pulled out a double over South Dakota, which is not surprising. But the player that I want to highlight, and I'm gonna highlight him once now, and I'll highlight him again later on in the season, I'm sure. But Chucky Hepburn is my favorite guard in the country. Bias aside, this guy gets after it. I mean, he's genuinely the best defensive. He's going to be the best defensive guard of the Big Ten. And as a team, Wisconsin's going to shoot very well this year. I'm confident that they're going to play at a high level of efficiency, and that's something we didn't see from them in the past. Last year with Johnny Davis and co, we shot 30% from three. Not something that you really look for in terms of efficiency, especially when you're shooting a handful of them a game. Last night we came out, shot much better as a team, knocked down 12 threes, and Chucky contributed in his classic Chucky ways with 14 3, 2 steals, shooting 50% and shooting 60% from three. Um, I just want everybody to keep an eye on Wisconsin because if this team starts shooting, everything else is there. They are a consistent team on the defensive end, and they have some guys off the bench. Kamari McGee. They had a guy. Quint said this is the kid that balled out on him. Pause, but this kid cooked Quint at our local gym, and the guy said that he was on the Badgers, and Quinn was like, "Oh yeah, really?" And the guy was like, "Yeah, I start." But he came off the bench last night, and he had a couple threes. Kid's a shooter. I don't mind it. Max Klesmit, he's got it. I'm gonna stop the Wisconsin jargon, but did you watch any of that Wisconsin game?
I didn't get a chance to see it. I was watching like the games that I watched last night that I had on a rotate were the Arkansas Pine Bluff TCU game. I had Auburn George Mason on. I had Dayton Lindenwood because I have to watch Dayton, and I had Arkansas versus God, who did they? We just talked about
Oh,
it. Who they play?
I
North
mean, we
Dakota
should
State.
really fill this slot with talking about Mongolian Mike. Go ahead, go ahead. I got to
Dude,
I got to talk about Chucky. Go ahead, talk about Mongolian Mike.
Mongolian Mike looked good.
Yeah,
Mike
try to pronounce his
Sharagems.
name. Yeah, there we
Mike
go, Sheriff
Sharagems.
Jones. Yeah, that's a
He
good.
looks
I think
good,
that's the
dude.
best I've heard. Yeah,
He's really long. He can handle the ball well. He can attack off the drive. Good shooter. He looks like an interesting prospect, I do have to say. I was not my boy Duran Holmes had some struggles finishing at the rim last night. Didn't grab a ton of boards, was not his best performance, I have to say. But Mike looked good. He can do it at multiple levels. And I think that he's a guy who may start to creep up into the conversation as
yeah.
a
I
potential
mean,
draftable prospect as
stop
the season
sleeping
rolls
on
on.
Mike. Stop sleeping on Mike Sheriff Vance. Stop
We
sleeping on Chucky Hepburn, ladies and
we
gentlemen.
have both of those guys in our stop sleeping on column, and I think that we were proven right last night. Um,
Yeah, for the most part, I think that we were proven right. Um, you want to take the next one? Kind of, want to move into Alex Fudge.
yeah, I mean, I didn't get to see Florida last night, but another team that just dismantled a team that they should be beating in Stony Brook. A balanced performance from them, and it's really impressive. Alex Fudge is the guy that we've been highlighting. I'm surprised to not see any defensive stats from Alex Fudge looking at the box score. That being said, you can't really nitpick when a guy got 16 points in 18 minutes off the bench.
Mhm.
I think that's a little bit harsh. Um, I would like to see. I'm gonna have to see more of this Florida team because they do have a very balanced attack. They're a very interesting roster. They've got him. They've got Castleton. They've got Reeves. They've got a few
I
good
like
players on this,
Castleton.
and I think that they're not the flashiest team. They're kind of like Wisconsin. They're not the flashiest team out there. They don't have the top guy, but I think that they just have a good core cast of players. They're gonna play good defense. And Florida has some guys that can shoot the three. So I think they're going to be a good team. And it's going to be tough in the SEC, but I think that they're a team that can contend with some of these SEC teams just because of the level of depth they have.
Yeah, I agree. I think you highlighted a lot of Florida's strengths perfectly. I agree with the depth argument. I think Alex Fudge perfectly encapsulates that, and I think he's only going to get better as the year goes on. Um, Terquavion Smith versus Austin P. Um, came out and balled out. I mean, this is a guy that me and you have been talking about really since last year. I mean, this is a guy that I had in the top 15 on my big board before he declared that he was going to
Yep.
return to North Carolina State. Um, and I felt like I was one of the few people at the time. And I think now, as the landscape has changed, and he's probably the most notable returner in college basketball, besides Oscar Tshiebwe, obviously. But I think he had his best performance I've seen from him in terms of a complete all around game yet as a basketball player. It was last night.
I
He put
think the
up
big thing to me that sticks out with Turk from last night's performance is I want to see more assists, but I saw assists. And he was moving the ball better. And he was
he was
taking
playing
less.
defense.
He was playing defense. That's another thing. He was taking less of the crazy Turk shot. His shot selection improved.
Also, very
And
notable. He navigated getting to the basket much better. He didn't avoid contact, didn't like shy away from it. He was very forceful and very purposeful with his movements getting to the hoop. I think that made a huge difference. For me, just watching him, I felt like more comfortable watching him drive to the basket, even when he wasn't just dunking it. And I think when you look at my preseason report of him, I'd highlight him as basically all he does is shoot threes and dunk the ball because he can't do anything else. And now he's starting to show
yeah,
like, hey, Caleb, guess what? I got the Euro step. I got the floater. I guess what? I can hit a pull up midi fading. I mean, I can do all this stuff. And I think that Terquavion Smith is probably the best pure scorer in the country besides Nick Smith Jr. or maybe Marcus Sasser or a couple other guys that are just really pure scoring guards. But for his size and his skill, I mean, and then also he's playing around a great team. You noted here that there's 8 steals amongst the starters for NC State, and they had 4 starters in double figures. Like
four stars and double figures. Yeah.
it's good to see a team that is playing well and playing as a team, and it's a team that maybe some of us weren't talking about in the preseason as much, and we just kind of wrote them off as a Turk squad. But maybe there's a team that we'll have to come back around to as the season gets going.
Something I didn't realize about them, they brought in multiple transfers from other schools that were averaging double digits at their school. That's big.
Oh,
And
that's
that's
awesome.
a big makeup of their starting lineup. And I think that that's really good for Turk.
That's recruiting.
That's recruiting. And I think that they needed, especially given the departure of Sebron, they needed to bring in guys to take some of the pressure and the onus off Turk. Obviously, Turk's going to do what he does, but you don't want him getting double teamed every time he touches the ball.
No,
And I think that they've done a good job of bringing in a cast of characters around him who are going to help him do that. And again, it's early. I mean, that game was not even close. It was like
no,
30-12 in the first 10 minutes.
no. It was
Um,
not a
they
close
they
game.
they beat the brakes off Austin B. And so it's tough with a lot of these games. It's tough to really gauge, because a lot of them were just like, you know, with the Baylor game, the first game I watched this season was 42-16 with about 5 minutes to go in the half. How do you evaluate that? That's tough to evaluate.
Stuff.
The only thing you can really evaluate is a team's mindset if they
Now
continue to
here
pump on.
here is where I love college basketball because there's a whole nother side of the game, women's college basketball. And once a week, we're going to go through some of the games that we're watching, at least in terms of women's basketball. And there was a good one last night. It was the only top 25 matchup in the country on either side.
Yeah.
Number 21, Creighton took on number 23, South Dakota State. The highlight of the game was Lauren Jensen scoring 30 total, but notably had 11 of Creighton's last 12 points, including a three-pointer late to bury the Jackrabbits. She finished with 5 assists, adding to her 30 points, shooting 10 of 20 from the field and 4 for 7 from 3. Great game from Lauren. I'm happy for her. I mean, she balled out. Creighton looks good. They got a top 25 win in their first game of the season.
Yeah,
I don't think you can start your season better than that.
Look, I mean, they're playing in the Big East, which is a good basketball conference. They're going to have to face UConn at some point, obviously, and that's going to be a challenge. But I think if you can put, especially in a conference again, in a conference with a team like UConn that's probably going to win your conference, if you can stack those early season wins against ranked opponents and build that resume, it speaks volumes
Yeah,
for the
I
tournament.
think you highlighted a perfect point there. Well done.
Thank
All
you,
right.
Caleb. I appreciate it.
Now at the end of every week, we're gonna preview the next week. This next week again is not very notable. I mean, it's really just the season's just getting started. So I'm gonna go through a couple games here, Julian. And what we're gonna do here is I want you to rate on a scale of 1 to 5 whether you are excited to watch this game or not. I'm gonna pitch the game to you. Tonight we have number 14 Ohio State versus number 5 Tennessee, the Lady Buckeyes versus the Lady Volunteers. I can't tell you much about the teams themselves. At least at this moment, we've been researching mostly men's basketball. But as the season goes on, I'm sure we will be more tapped in to who's who in the women's space. But I mean, a big game, Big Ten versus SEC. I mean, who do you got in this game? Who do you think?
I can't bet against Tennessee women, man. I know Pat
The Lady
Summit's not there
Volunteers.
anymore. Rest in peace, Pat Summit. But
Yeah.
I I can't bet against the Tennessee Vols. I think it should be a good game. I'm probably going to tune in after we get off this podcast, to be honest with you.
Sounds about
Um,
right.
and I
Okay.
think again,
It's rapid
I
fire. It's
hate to
rapid
reiterate,
fire. It's rapid
hate to
fire.
reiterate. Watchability is a
Lady
5.
Vols.
You need to build your resume.
All right. Saturday. These 3 next games are from Saturday. We got number 2 Gonzaga versus Michigan State. What do you think? I'd say that's a 3-ish.
I was gonna. You took the words right out of my mouth. That's a 3.
Okay.
Give me Gonzaga.
Obviously Gonzaga drew Timmy. Give you Gonzaga. All right. That's what it. Now we have Wisconsin versus Stanford. Again, no bias here. This is actually a notable matchup because it's the first time I think that we'll actually have 2 consensus, at least in my opinion, top 100 prospects go against each other in Harrison Ingram versus Chucky Hepburn. Who do you got in this one?
I'm going to take Wisconsin. I think it's a 4. The team around Harrison Ingram stinks.
Yeah.
And Wisconsin has got experience on their side.
Okay. This is a big one. Amani sat out last night in Eastern Michigan's
know.
opener, but he is coming back. He wasn't hurt. He's going to start his season, his first regular season with Eastern Michigan against number 22 Michigan. This is a watchability 10 for me. I mean, the prodigal son goes back to the big school that he snubbed over transferring to. I mean, the storylines are unreal. Who do you got?
I got Michigan. I think Jet Howard is going to. I think
Okay.
Jet Howard's going to lock him up.
I think this is actually the best prospect matchup we'll have. This is the Jet Howard.
I think it is.
And Hunter Dickinson had a great night last night, by the way. I want to shout out Hunter Dickinson. Also, Doug McDaniel, mini Doug McBuckets, had a great night yesterday. I mean, Michigan cannot stop finding sub 6 foot guards that get buckets. I mean, Isaiah Brooks, give me Doug McBuckets Daniel. So
I really think that Michigan has more talent on their roster. I do like.
I mean, we don't even need
but
to argue about this. I think this is a good spot. We're gonna wrap up, guys. Thank you for joining us. We're excited to kind of take this journey with you guys, and we're gonna see where the madness takes us. So we're off the clock.